Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Tom.
It's too cold outside, so that's why you're inside today?
No, my wife's away, so I figured I'd keep it simple, and I was up late doing some work, and I just didn't feel like going outside to get it all situated. So, change of pace, it's good.
It's good. All right, well, good morning, everyone. I'm Tom Brush, and this is Bob Graham, and this is our next edition of Today's Antidote. That show we've been doing every day since March 19th to help you take your next step forward along your pathway to success. So this week, we're talking about taking stock, which makes sense. The end of a calendar year is a good time to always look back and try to understand where you're at. Yesterday, we talked about destinations reached, and if you watched I was a mess with my computer. So yesterday was not a destination that I completed, but today is a different day. Today, though, rather than talking about destinations reached, I think we talk about that other thing that's important as we're taking stock is challenges that we faced. And there is no doubt that this year, we had many different challenges than we have ever had in the past. And yet for some people, they may not have been as difficult as challenges faced in years past. And I think that if we don't take the time to stop and evaluate and sort of understand how did those challenges influence what's real for us, we're missing an opportunity to figure out how to move forward. So why don't you share a little bit about your thoughts on that, Bob, as we discuss taking stock?
Sure. I think the big thing that I would say is if you're going to reach any kind of new level of success, you have to challenge yourself. I do some running. And if I run the same 2 miles every day and never go up a hill, never go up steps, never improve my pace, yes, I ran 2 miles every day, but I'm never going to get a better time. I'm never going to be able to run 3 miles. And I think in business, it's the same thing. We've got to challenge ourselves. And a lot of times we challenge ourselves. In the past, it would be like, well, I'm thinking I might expand in this direction, or I might do this, or I might try speaking this way, or going there, or doing this thing. This year, I think what was different was many of the challenges that we faced came at us, and we didn't have control of them. And I think that's one of the big differences. But we're constantly facing challenges. And your description, challenges faced, in the piece, the title, I would actually modify that slightly as I think about it now to challenges overcome. Because to me, the challenges that I overcame this year are far greater to me and position me far more favorably going forward. I think of in March, most of my speaking business went out the door. By May, I was doing virtual conferences and doing virtual presenting and making money doing that. And that's something that I will be able to continue indefinitely. So that gives me, there'll be opportunities hopefully to go back on stages around the country, but also to do it virtually. And so what was once a very narrow, you have to go to the location and speak, now I have 2 prongs, and the pricing can be somewhat more fluid because of those choices. So I could look at that in March and say, oh, well, your speaking business is gone. No one's ever going to go to a conference anywhere in the country. Oh, well, that's it. I'm over. Nice. It was good while it lasted. Or how do I create something new? And even this week, I'm working on something that, to my knowledge, no one else is doing, which is putting together a virtual speaker's reel. So it's literally going to be speaking from the virtual stage. Most people's speaker's reel, my speaker's reel, which is what people look at to figure out if they want to hire you. Mine is all from a stage. And that doesn't apply as well. So I'm actually being, I would say, somewhat innovative because I see the challenge, and the challenges aren't just mine. The challenges overcome can also be other people's challenges. If you're a conference organizer, you may not want to be the first to put people in a room together. That's got some risk. So
No doubt.
recognizing their challenges and where I can help them creates new opportunities.
So as you were sharing that, I got thinking about, so is that a challenge overcome or is it a destination reached?
Ooh. Hey, now we're getting into some deep water.
Because one of the things I was thinking about was, yes, overcoming challenges are great. And in some cases, I would say that that might be that you've reached a destination. And so I think evaluating challenges faced provides us with different information, right? It allows us to evaluate the actions that we took when we address these challenges rather than the results that it came out of those actions. So while it is great to understand those challenges overcome, I think it's also great to understand those challenges that maybe we didn't overcome, that we still struggle with as we try to figure out how are we moving forward, and understand that there's value in the struggle, and sometimes that the struggle not having the results that we want. Okay, how do we use that to help us move forward? So what do you think about that?
I think when we talk about destinations reached, I think of a place that I was trying to get to, as opposed to a place that I ended up. Now I know, I may not be alone in that. So, I was coming back from California. I drove across the country with some nephews and a brother-in-law, and we stopped at various places along the way. If we saw something on the side of the road, it'd be like, oh, let's go there. The destination I reached was my home and my bed. Now, along the way, we stopped at various places that I never knew existed. And so are those destinations reached if my ultimate goal over that 6 days was to get back to Baltimore, or were each of those destinations? And I think when we move it to a travel angle, it mirrors how we are in business, because I think we're always, Tom, so focused on what are we trying to achieve. It's a money equation. It's a number of clients. It's a number of contacts. It's a number of this, number of that. No, that's a little different than what I think I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I do want to throw in a comment here. Carrie asked us a question, and we love a good question. I have coaches and mentors I'm working with that have lost their momentum and motivation. Brand new for them. I was curious, any suggestions or ideas? Listen to our program every morning. Done. Next.
Okay, that's one suggestion. That might not be a reality for them. I would say that I think one of the challenges when you reach that point is that you need to start thinking about what's the next step. I think what's hard is when you lose your momentum and motivation because you start thinking about the end game, right? You think about the destination. I want to be here, which is great. And it's great to at least have that understanding. But I think motivation and momentum, the challenge is what's the next step? You just need to take action. I think, that was one of those things we talked about a lot, is when you're stuck, how do you find that next thing to keep you moving? Whatever that may be. And it may take various means to get you unstuck. But I would say we start to break it down into that one thing, like we talk about every day. So we'll go back to, yes, your answer was a definite possibility, is that we think so often, I think when we think about motivation and momentum, we think about the end game and the next destination, and sometimes stop and forget all the value of all the little steps we take along the way. So going back to your example, Bob, of the trip, that your end destination was to get home. Mm-hmm. And if all you ever thought about was, how am I going to get home? Do you miss the value of all those little stops that you took along the way? It wasn't necessarily your intent. It was just so happened that along the way, things influenced you and you ended up in that spot. And you could just be like, okay, I don't care. I'm just going to bed. I'm going to get up the next day and I'm just going to keep going. Or you could take a moment and be like, let me understand a little bit more about why I'm here and what there is here to evaluate and to understand, so that I can then take something from this action that I have done. And I think that's sometimes what happens is when we get stuck, we stop looking at the value of the little steps and the progress that is made along the way. We're only thinking about, all I want to do is get home. All I want to do is get to my end game. All I want to do is get my next client. All I want to do is, have my next product sold. And we miss the opportunity to understand those little steps along the way.
I put Carrie's follow-up comment, LOL, love it, Bob. I think she means my suggestion of listening to our program, because she said this show is super helpful. And then she put a whole bunch of those cool emojis that I'm not going to read, but you can certainly look at them yourselves. Thank you, Carrie. It's very kind. Appreciate your support. I think it's funny. When I got home, I didn't tell people about, I traveled all the way across the country. I told people that, I saw some amazing things in different spots across the country that really have helped me understand this country far more powerfully. And I think that's what we're doing this week and what we're doing today. It's like, okay, this pandemic came. I learned how important it is to call people on the phone. Even if you don't know what to say, even if you haven't talked to them in a while, just call and say, hey, how's it going? That opened a whole bunch of doors, a whole bunch of opportunities. It connected me with a lot of people that I had never really gotten to know as well. And to be helpful to them, just to be like, hey, I was thinking of you. I was going through my Rolodex, actually electronic, and your name popped up. And I thought I'd give you a call and see what's going on. People are like, oh my God, that's amazing. Oh, I've been wondering what you were doing and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of that we have the opportunity. And I think the virtual stuff has made it much easier for a lot of people to do one-on-ones.
Sure.
I was talking to someone yesterday and he said, I do 20 of these a week now. I could not have fit 20 in with drive time because he lives in the DC area, which is a traffic nightmare. And he's like, this has been a real godsend for me. I'm having one-on-ones all the time. It's moving things forward more quickly. He's like, I don't know if I'll ever go to driving around the DC area ever again. And so at first he said to me, I didn't like it. I hated being on a computer. I felt awkward. I felt uncomfortable. And then he said, now it's like a second skin.
Mm-hmm.
He said he had an in-person meeting and he forgot it was in person. And he was like, I got another half hour. And then he realized he had to rush. And he just got there in the nick of time. He's like, because I'm so used to everything's on Zoom. And this guy just wanted to meet in person. So imagine the shift that is for us. I don't think a year ago we were thinking of Zoom as the powerful tool it's become, or Microsoft Teams, or Skype, or FaceTime, and all those tools that now that's normal language. I don't have to explain. FaceTime's the thing that you do on an iPhone, and Microsoft Teams. Everyone has it. Even Google Meet. There's another one. So we have this plethora of opportunities, and I think where the challenge is, and where I haven't been as successful as I wish I had been, just to give you an example of something, I don't think that I have always been as confident when I'm doing this. I still prefer to be in person. I think I'm 80% successful in this format, but I really do like looking a person in the eye, being in the room with them, figuring out, all that stuff that you observe that you can't in this form, because I can control this. There's a light back there, and if I don't want the light, I can block it with, and you have a virtual background. There's a certain amount of fake that we can do here that I think at times gets in the way, but that's just me. So Tom, I guess it's that time. Do you have a one thing for today? You kind of gave one to Carrie.
Yeah, I think, and that would be my one thing, is that, I think it would be easy to look at this past year when you talk about challenges and just say the pandemic. Like, that's an easy answer. And I think the challenge is, or the opportunity is that that's not all there is. I went through my book the other day, my sort of journal book of meetings and sort of results of meetings and all of that. And I'm going to go back through it again because I think there's a lot of things that if I had just said, phew, yeah, the challenges I faced this year were the pandemic. All right, great. Well, there were other little challenges along the way that, again, results were what they were, but there was knowledge gained. There's experiences had, and there was a new perspective to take. So where I am by going back and saying, what happened in January? There were things as I looked at that happened in January that were really good, and February, and some that didn't go as well as I thought. And, and then everybody looks at things like post March 19th or 17th. They forget that there were 2 months, of the year, 2.5 months that happened prior to that. And so I think that if we don't take the time to go back and look at all of those things that we faced throughout the year and have an understanding of what the results were, that will help us better understand what's real and where we are right now and how we can figure out how to move forward. And so I would challenge people today to go back and look and actually understand, like, what was the process of the year and what did you gain from it? How did it influence what's real for you today?
I go back to what I said at the beginning. I think that's how you figure out things. Is it's not always the easy things that make us reach our goals. It's the hard things. And I think the things that I have not overcome in the past tend to come back again and again and again. There's that whole Buddhist philosophy that you're going to keep hitting the wall until you find a way over, under, around, or through it. I think I see that in my business often. That's like, oh, this is the same thing that happened last year and the year before. So looking at those things and saying, okay, I tried this way, it didn't work. Let's go around the wall. We've tried under, we've tried over, we've tried through. Let's go around the wall. Who knows? That might work. Or getting someone to help you. I think the thing that I was going to say is the way I've overcome those walls that get in my way is to have someone else help me see, hey, you think that's a wall? I see it as a fence. You could climb over it. And I think that's the what's John saying? I go through the wall. I like making an entrance.
Well, I think one of the challenges is that, if all we ever do is look at challenges overcome, those are like wins, right? So if you make it a sports analogy, if all we ever have is wins, how do we understand where our shortcomings are, where those things are that we're not as strong at, those things that others can expose or that we expose and they pop up and we don't know how to adjust once they happen. And so I think that if we don't ever evaluate that, and like you said, whether you're feeling like you've overcome a lot of challenges or the challenges have overcome you, if you're stuck in that spot, it's hard to go back and try to really figure out how was I influenced by that. And so I think you're right, whether it's writing down on paper, finding someone to talk to, or just trying to step out of your current situation, almost like you're looking down on yourself and what's going on, to really have a different perspective of what it's all about, which is hard to do. And I think that's why business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, lots of people get stuck because they feel like they're trapped in this. Either everything is going great, fine, I don't have to worry about things. And guaranteed there's that obstacle that's going to pop up and bite them at some point. Or, as Carrie mentioned earlier, you're feeling like you're not having success. You're not moving forward. And so you can't see all the things that you've learned along the way, even though they might not have the results that you want. And so I think finding an opportunity to just talk through that with someone, I think is really helpful, and kind of leads into, I think, why, as we're talking about taking stock this year, we want to help people take stock as they figure it out. We've talked about, we shared before that if you are stuck, if you're not really feeling like what are the things you've learned from either the destinations you've achieved or the challenges you've faced, sign up for one of our free laser solution sessions. We're doing it through the end of the year, the end of the week. And so there is still time that if you want to sign up, we'll sit down and talk you through and try to figure out what's the one thing that can help you move forward and stop feeling like you're stuck.
Tom, can I put a comment up there? Steve says, going back to destinations, how do you reconcile appreciating the things you saw, learned along the way with not reaching a destination that you've been trying to reach for a long time, or a destination that's necessary to pay the bills?
Yeah, I mean, that's, the challenge is that one of the challenge is that sometimes there are things that require us to get to a certain destination, right? That we don't have a choice about. This is where we're at. This is the world that we live in. And so I think the other thing you then have to do is step back and do the same thing. It's like, okay, if this is the reality of what I need to do, even though I believe this is the right path, what are the other options that I might have to consider while I continue down this path to figure out how to pay the bills? Let's say that's the challenge that's in front of us. And I think that we, again, sometimes limit and believe this is the only way. For the longest time, people thought the only way to pay your bills was to go work for somebody else, right? That was the only way. So are there other ways now? Sure. There are a ton of other ways. It's just that we sometimes are so stuck that we don't, or so like thinking that this is, I'm heading down this path, this is the only way to go, that there are other options that we could consider. And I think that's the opportunity that is there, is that there's a lot of ways to drive from Baltimore to St. Louis. Yeah, there's one easy way, get on Route 70 and go. And there are other options. Some are going to seem easier, some are going to seem harder, but they all could get us there. We just have to be open to the opportunity to consider those other pathways.
I was going to say, coming back from California in March, we had a choice. We could take the north route, which would take you through the Grand Canyon and, up through the upper part of the country where it could be snowy and bad weather, or we could take the southern route. I wanted to take the northern route, but it just wasn't a safe option. So we took the southern route. We got near Nashville right as a really bad set of tornadoes hit, and we had to reroute even at the last minute from Nashville. We called a friend and they were like, woohoo, you do not want to get anywhere close to Nashville. So we ended up going further south. In that process, we saw things that I didn't even know existed that were great in their own way. And we got to Baltimore quicker that way because we avoided a whole bunch of headaches along the way. So I think there are ways to get to our destination. And what I would say to Steve is, you don't always get to stop at every site along the way. There were plenty of things that I wanted to stop at that's like, yeah, that's going to eat up too much time, or it's getting dark, or I really want to get to a hotel, or I need to eat dinner. And so we had to make some choices. And I think in business, we make choices. There are projects I've done, I'm sure there are projects you've done, Tom, that are not the most soul-satisfying work that you could imagine, but they pay the bills. And you do those projects in the hopes that you're going to get to do some of the fun ones from time to time. And I think finding those projects is about, for me, it's about what do people need and how can I satisfy their need? And sometimes that's just like, oh, I didn't know that, Bob. Can you fix a letter for me? I need to send a letter to someone. Yeah, sure. It's not what makes my whole world exciting, but if it pays the bill, it pays the bill.
Right? Well, and I think that's the thing, is that sometimes we need to consider other options while we still are heading down where we want to go. I know a lot of people, and I would say I'm included, is that one of the ways, yes, I love what I do on my coaching side of things, and I love officiating lacrosse. So I've taken that, and does that help pay the bills? Yeah. Does that make it a little bit easier, especially when the two big seasons, for me to say, I didn't get this project that I thought I would. I didn't get this client that I thought I was going to sign. Okay. That's okay. Because I know I'm doing other things to bring that in, to bring in the opportunity that allows me to do the things that I love to do. And I think those are sometimes the challenges. When I started my coaching and consulting, I took a 20-hour-a-week role that was an hour away. And while I love the people and I love kind of the work that I was doing, The challenge was it was just taking so much time, and it allowed me to not go out and have to find another job to allow me to do what I wanted to do. And I did that as long as I needed to build what I was doing to a point where I could then go out on my own. And I think that's the challenge, is that how do you find ways to just keep moving forward, even though you might not like it, and it might not be, as you said, the perfect work. It allows you to continue to chase that destination that you really want to achieve.
Well, Tom, I think we've given people more than enough to wrap their heads around this morning, looking at opportunities and challenges that they faced. And I think we come back at this tomorrow and we'll be talking about, I totally forgot. I had it in my head and it just disappeared. What's tomorrow?
Opportunities.
Opportunities. There you go. So again, we're taking stock this week. And if you want to take stock in a really powerful way with us, we are doing a special VIP event for our Renegade Success Network members. We have a growing group of people. These are the people that really raised their hand and said, I really want to go out there and make a big difference in the world. And we're helping them do that each day with laser solution sessions, with workshops, with all kinds of just support and help that gives them guidance to go forward. If that's something that you're interested in, you could join that group today or even early tomorrow, and you could have a seat at our VIP event on Zoom tomorrow at 11 a.m. I say that not because I'm trying to sell you on something, but because it's a great opportunity to really take your business, your idea, and take it to the next level. And so much of my success and so much of Tom's success has come from coaches helping us figure things out that we just couldn't figure out ourselves. Something Tom and I are passionate about. We've made it affordable to approach versus some of the other options out there. I know you hate when I say that, don't you, Tom? I heard it. But
it's all right. It's all right.
But for me, it is an affordable option because we're not charging $20,000 for 90 days. And we're not promising you that you're going to be a millionaire within 6 weeks. We're actually helping you achieve that next thing and then the next thing and the next thing. And if you keep stacking these next things, before long, you're moving really fast. And we're seeing it with a lot of the members. So if that's something of interest to you, please message Tom or me. We'd love to get you in time for that event tomorrow at 11 a.m. Until tomorrow, Tom, anything you want to close with?
No, I just want to thank everybody for joining us. You know, these are the conversations that we've been having, not only here every day, but also inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. And if you are not yet a member, just go to on Facebook, search Ring of Renegades. It's a private group because, again, we want these to be a safe space where you can share with others who are also trying to move forward. Just ask to be invited. Tell us why you're a renegade, and you can be a part of our group as well. Again, that's Ring of Renegades on Facebook. And if not, we will see you here tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow or inside the Ring of Renegades. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Carving your own path is tough. You want and need a community to offer you insights and advice, share inspiration, provide support, and save you time and money. But where do you find all that? Here's the easy answer: the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners identify their next steps. Here's some of what you will find at the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Just go to ringofrenegades.com and join today. Find and accomplish those next steps.